Welcome class to Introduction to Python, Chapter 9 Classes. This video will be the first of 4. In this video, we're going to look at the objective creating and using a class. Object-oriented programming is one of the most effective approaches to writing software. In object-oriented programming, you write classes that represent real-world things and situations, and you create objects based on these classes. When you write a class, you define the general behavior that a whole category of objects can have. When you create individual objects from the class, each object is automatically equipped with the general behavior, and then given each object whatever unique traits you desire. Making an object from a class is called instantiation, and you work with instances of a class. So for example, if I open up Microsoft Word and I go to use a resume template, you can think of the resume template as a class. But when I create my copy of it, it's called an instance of that class. And that whole process is called instantiate or instantiation. We're going to model a dog, okay? And we're going to create a dog with properties of name and age and behaviors or methods called sit and roll over. Now we're going to keep it general. We're not going to define any particular one dog, but in general, any type of dog. So we'll go over the details of the syntax of creating a class. And so this is what you're going to type up in your book, and we're going to look at it here in detail in VS Code. So we use the lowercase key class. When we name our classes, you want to use title case. Title case meaning that the first letter is going to be uppercase. You're going to give your class a docstring, so you're going to give it some documentation of what this class actually does. So if you look at Alien Invasion, you're going to see that the class of Bullet, the class of Alien, they all have their docstring explaining what that class is going to do. Okay, then we have the initialization function. We have two methods, sit and we have rollover. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the initialization function. It's a special method that Python runs automatically whenever we create a new instance based on the class. So we're going to do that here in a little bit. And so then that function is automatically run. Now the thing that's important with the syntax of it is that you make sure that you have your two underscores. So two underscores before it and two underscores after. Now if you forget to do that and you only have one underscore, everything that is defined here in the body of the initialization function does not exist. And so that's why you will receive an error. The self parameter is required and must be first. So if we jump back, look here, we got the self parameter is required and is first in the list. Now every method called associated with a class automatically passes self, which is a reference to the instance itself. So it's just a syntax that we must do. It gives the individual instance access to the attributes and methods in the class. Now, any variable prefixed with self is available to every method in the class. And we'll also be able to access these variables through any instance created from the class. So self.name equal name takes the parameter name and stores it in the variable name, which is then attached to the instance being created. So attributes are variables that are accessible through instances. So it's referring to these two here. Okay, so name and age are going to be accessible to any functions, any methods that are defined in this particular class, and any instances that we create from this class. So here's the name, and there's the parameter that is coming from. So when I create an instance based off of this particular class, I'm going to send the information of a name and also an age so that these can be populated with values for those particular properties. Making an instance from a class and assessing or accessing attributes. So now we're going to create an instance called my underscore dog, and it's going to be based off of the class dog. And notice here we have the name and we also have age. So I'm going to go ahead and add this code here to my dog.py file. Okay, so reminder of the naming convention of the class is title case, so that when I'm using the syntax down here of creating an instance, okay, when I see this, I know that this is a class. Okay, so again, sending along Willie, okay, and sending along the number 6. Okay, so Willie will store a name and then 6, and this function is automatically run when this statement executes. Okay, so this is the statement that's creating an instance. Okay, and the instance name is named my dog, and it's based on the class dog. And then we print out my dog's name is instance name, and then here is that attribute name. Same thing here, instance name, and then the attribute age. So let's go ahead and run this. Okay, my dog's name is Willie. Okay, line 20, and then line 21, my dog's age is 6. So again, you want to make sure that you are using the instance name to access your attributes. So jumping back, I have 3 questions on this slide. It says, what function is automatically called? Okay, so that function that is automatically called, remember when we create an instance, okay, the function that is automatically called is the initialization function. So we don't need to actually physically call this function. All we need to do is create an instance, and that function is automatically called. What's the instance name? Okay, well, the instance name in our example here is my underscore dog. And what are the attributes? The attributes are name and they are age. Okay, so you don't want to include the instance name when I ask you a question like what are the attributes. This in case it's name and age. Calling methods. So when we define this class, we have 2 methods, and they are sit and they are rollover. So after we create an instance, okay, and our instance is called my underscore dog, and we created it based on the class dog. Okay, we can use dot notation to call those methods. So let's go ahead and add that to our file. Okay, so my underscore dog is our instance name, and then the name of our method here is sit. So I put in here the comment calling the 2 methods using the syntax instance name dot method. So we'll go ahead and run this code, and you can see Willie is now sitting and Willie rolled over. Creating multiple instances. So when we create a class, we can create as many instances from a class as you need. And in the real world, that is the purpose of a class, is to make it very general so that we can use it as a template and then make it more specific to our particular use. So we're going to create a new instance and we're going to call it your dog. So simply just come over to your code. Okay, you can copy all of this, okay, and then just update this now to your dog. So I have your dog, it's Lucy, she's 3 years old. I'll go ahead and run it. My dog's name is Lucy, my dog's age is 3. Lucy is now sitting and Lucy has rolled over. Notice again when I'm referring to the attributes, I'm using the instance name that I'm working with, and the same thing with the methods itself. So that wraps up our first objective, creating and using a class. Let's look at our lab for this objective, which is 9-1 restaurant. So it says make a class called restaurant. Again, notice the title case. The initialization method for restaurant should store two attributes, restaurant underscore name and cuisine underscore type. Make a method called describe underscore restaurant that prints these two pieces of information, and a method called open restaurant that prints a message indicating that the restaurant is open. And then make an instance called restaurant from your class, print the two attributes individually, and then call both methods. So if we were to jump over and just kind of use dog as our template, okay, we would call this restaurant. Okay, and then make sure you update your doc string. You're going to have your initialization function. Okay, so restaurant underscore name and cuisine underscore type. Now, since I have these two, that also means that I'm going to have two parameters up here, okay, that are going to correspond to them. You could leave this as name, you could change it to restaurant underscore name, okay, and then maybe this one's just called type, okay, and then type is associated there. Again, if you want to be more detailed, you can call them the same as their particular attribute names as well. Okay, then we have a method called describe restaurant. And then this one was open restaurant. Now again, make sure that you update the doc strings to be something that is needed or describes the function of that. Okay, describe restaurant is going to have two particular print statements, and then this one is going to have one print statement that just says that the restaurant is open. When we create the instance, okay, you can call it the instance name whatever you want to call it. If you want to call it a particular name of a restaurant, you can do that. Just make sure that when you're using this right here that you have this as restaurant. Okay, it must match how you type the class name at the top, and again send along the two the name and the type. Okay, and that then you're going to go ahead and call the method describe restaurant, which is going to print out that information, and then you're going to go ahead and print out the two attributes individually. That is, yep, and then call both methods. So I'm going to put this in here. Print out two attributes individually. Okay, and then you're going to call both methods. So basically what we did here, okay, and you only have to do the one particular instance. Okay, if you have any questions on this particular section, please let me know. Thank you.